For a few years now, Ruben and Janet Nepales have been covering premieres and festivals, interviewing A-list celebs, and helping run that little award show, the Golden Globes. As part of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, or HFPA for short, Ruben and Janet are part of an elite group of foreign journalists in Hollywood that vote on this star-studded tradition that's approaching its 71st year. They're back again in Toronto covering the 2013 Toronto International Film Festival. Taking a break from screenings, press junkets, and exclusive after-parties, Ruben and Janet make it a point to have a traditional Filipino dinner here, at my house. That's right, Ruben and Janet are my uncle and aunt. I get to call them my tita and tito. This time the tables are turned. The interviewers become the interviewees as I pick the brains of the HFPA's power couple. So take us back to the beginning. I remember when I was probably 7 years old, you guys used to send us copies of Manila Extra. Mm-hmm. That's the earliest memory I have, but I know that's not where it started. How did you start your career in the media?
Yeah, well, Manila Extra was a magazine that we edited in LA, but before that, we, as you said, were writers. So, from college, I started writing already, and then Janet?
Yeah, I also started in college with the Varsitarian as editor, and then I also contributed to all the magazines and newspapers in the Philippines, like Times Journal and other Mod Magazine, Mr. and Miss. And then we migrated here to the States, Ruben, and we continued that writing for the Filipino magazines and newspapers. And then they found out we were already in LA, so they assigned us to Hollywood events. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this was a long journey to get to the Hollywood Foreign Press, which is the body behind the Golden Globes. But it's not exactly the easiest job to get. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, because mahirap pumasok because you have to submit your clippings, and then the members have to go over it, and you have to have sponsors. But I think that's changing right now. But you have to be voted by a majority of the members who will review your clippings and everything, and lots of other stuff. So it's really like passing through a needle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you got through to the Hollywood Foreign Press first, and then Tita Janet followed.
Right.
Yes.
So tell us a little more about that process. You said it took a couple tries, right?
Yeah, it took a couple of tries for me before I got in, but it was really difficult because right now we're the only Filipino members of the Hollywood Foreign Press in the 70-year of the history of the organization, which does the Golden Globe annually too. So, and Ruben was also former chairman of the board.
Great. So that was a role that you held for a year.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little more about that role?
This is a one-year term that expires at the end of the year. So it started actually botohan. So I was just running for the board member. Hindi ko inaasahan na maging chairman ako eventually. But toward the end of the evening, biglang naboto na ako sa chairman. So hindi ko makapaniwala. So I'm very grateful for that. Kasi ang HFPA, it's a year-round thing. It's not only the Golden Globes, and for example, we do a lot of philanthropic work. So on film scholarships. So it's not only the Golden Globes. We're also giving a lot of grants, and there are other events and activities that we are involved in year-round. So there are a lot of decisions to be made. So that's part of the responsibilities of the board and the chairman to work with the president.
Mm-hmm. Like recently, we also contributed money, like $25,000, to the victims of the Filipino typhoon victims of Filipinos, and Ruben and I hand-delivered yung check nga for the UNICEF victims.
Yung nakagandahan, because we're also involved in whenever there are international catastrophes, we make sure to also donate. Because ang proceeds kasi from the earnings we get from the Golden Globe Awards, from the telecast rights, we get these earnings, and we're a non-profit. So to the Hollywood community, for example, in terms of scholarships to the film, especially film schools, a lot of film schools benefit from us.
And the foundation of Martin Scorsese that
preservation of film
preserves the films. Yeah.
Classic films, we help in the restoration of classic films.
In fact, Lino Brocas Maynila sa Kukunang Liwanag was one of the films that was restored, and it was shown again in Cannes in the classic division category, and Hilda Coronel attended that event.
You were talking about how you were both the only two Filipino members of the HFPA. What does that mean for you two being, proud Filipinos, of course. How does that feel?
It's a humbling experience because in our interviews, I always make it a point to say I'm from the Philippines, so that way we get to represent
Filipino pride.
Yeah, Filipino pride, of course, and also now Janet is also the first Filipino member of the Hollywood Foreign Press. So it's Filipino pride. It's really humbling that, and imagine for when I came in, it was about 67, 68. For 67 years, wala silang member na Filipino. So akong naging unang mga member. So in a way, it's a point of pride for all of us. Kasi any ceiling that we break, it's a pride for all of us Filipinos all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, akong first Filipina journalist in the association. So I was also awarded recently by the Filipina Women's Network as one of the most influential Filipina. Isa yon sa reason kung bakit din na-awardan ako, because I was breaking barriers also for being the first Filipina journalist there in the Hollywood Foreign Press.
So a lot of barriers broken. How else have your lives changed since you've become a part of the HFPA?
No more sleep. Lots of traveling, working, deadline, interviewing, press conferences. So sometimes, we only sleep 2 hours, 3 hours.
Kasi hindi nakikita ng mga tao ang the hard work behind it, They only see the glamour, but it's a lot of work too, the writing and the interviewing and all the other activities in between.
Mm-hmm.
So what then would be your favorite part of being in the HFPA?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
It's access to the stars, no doubt about it, kasi you get access to all the big stars.
Is that what you always dreamed of?
Well, because it helps you as a writer, because you always come up with these stories featuring the most talented people in Hollywood, for example. Not just the stars, but directors, script writers, and talents behind the screen also.
And also being able to help the future journalists, like we contribute to the students, the film schools, that cannot afford anything, and by building this background for them, it helps. We're influencing a lot of young kids to join the industry and be journalists as well.
Like myself. Of course, we cannot neglect to talk about the Golden Globes.
Yes.
We would probably need a whole day to go over some highlights, but over the past few years that you've been involved with it, what are some of your favorite moments?
Well, it's not Hollywood's party of the year for nothing. Kasi this is one big party. Kasi ang maganda sa Golden Globes, it's not just film but also TV. So we both honor excellence in TV and film. So imagine one ballroom full of stars and producers, and one night. This is actually one thing they look forward to, kasi under one roof they're all together. So it's really fun to watch, especially during commercial breaks. Imagine all these big stars. Actually, they stand up and smoosh and go table hopping. But when it's time for the show to be back on, like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, we'll count down. Everybody goes back to their respective tables. It's like nothing happened. But you should see the bedlam, the confusion during the commercial breaks, because everybody just stands up and greet each other.
My most favorite part is doing the red carpet, because I interview yung mga celebrities who are wearing their famous gowns. But the funny thing is, some celebrities are excited to see my gown, and I'm proudly wearing Filipino fashion designers like Oliver Tolentino, Alan Del Rosario, David Tupas, Carly Nude Calloway, and other Filipino designers. And I've worn already the Husi on the red carpet, and they get excited seeing my gowns, and they would, instead of me asking who are you wearing, they would ask me, Janet, who are you wearing?
Now I have to ask you, Janet, about the infamous connection, I guess you would say, that you have with Mr. George Clooney. Rumor has it that he's under your spell. He's under your spell. Can you tell us about that?
Oh no, because it was really very memorable that the first time I met him, he gave me a kiss on the right cheek. So I told Ruben, no more kissing me on the right cheek. That's George Clooney's kiss. And Ruben told that story again to George. And then said, okay, let's even it out. So he kissed me also on the other cheek. But basically, George is a fun guy, very humble, down to earth.
George, first name basis.
Oh, first name basis. He really goes out to his fans to say hello and everything else, and he really talks to you for a long time, like makes you really feel you're important. So
yeah, that's what makes him, I guess, sets him apart. Kasi when he talks to you, I actually surprised to everyone na he's really concentrated. It's just not making any small talk. Talagang tumitingin siya sa'yo.
He's one of those rare Hollywood stars na you don't feel like you're talking to a Hollywood star, but he's just like a friend. You're talking to a friend.
Ever been starstruck now at this point?
When I met Barbara Streisand, yeah, I was a star. When I met Oprah Winfrey, yes, I was a little bit starstruck because they were like my idols too. But when we started talking to them, you find out that they're also common human beings, you know, with emotions, feelings, and you know, their ideals, and we enjoy just talking to them.
Ako si Martin Scorsese because he's like legends and Meryl Streep. And also rock and roll, we actually interview rockers too, like Mick Jagger. So sa akin ang highlight to hear Mick Jagger in that raspy voice saying "Hello, Ruben," so something like that. So it was really cool to hear that famous Mick Jagger voice saying "Hello, Ruben."
So speaking of celebrities, Tito Ruben, your book, My Filipino Connection, The Philippines in Hollywood, kind of chronicles these Filipino celebrities who've made it in Hollywood and beyond Hollywood. What kind of inspired you to put this collection of stories together?
Kasi we make it a point, Janet and I, to also spotlight Filipinos making it all over the world. Kasi hindi lang Hollywood, kundi we do, parang it's our advocacy to also spotlight Filipinos making it all over the world. So, dun sa libro ko, I gathered all my previous articles and I also wrote new ones to spotlight my articles on Filipino talents all over the world, like Darren Criss, you know, Vanessa Hudgens, and Hailey Steinfeld, and all this. Also Matthew Libatique, who's the cinematographer of Darren Aronofsky. Not many people know that the Oscar-nominated Black Swan was shot by this Filipino-American cinematographer, and he's doing he did Noah, the new movie of Darren. And he did a lot of stuff, and he's an award-winning too. The one that Justin Timberlake won for in the recent MTV Awards, he shot that video.
And we also get excited when we interview, like we go out and interview animators, Filipino animators, who are not really always highlighted in movies, but behind the scenes, they're Filipino animators. Like in Jonah Hex, the late Tony De Zuniga, who did the Jonah Hex animation, and it was filmed by Josh Brolin.
There's a Filipino animator at Pixar called Ronnie Del Carmen. He's co-directing a Pixar film, so I think that's a significant achievement for a Filipino to be co-directing a Pixar film.
And there are the Pixnoys. They call themselves Pixnoys in Pixar, who are
Pinoys
Filipinos
who
and
work at
animators at Pixar.
Yeah.
Now, I've been to the Philippines 8 times now, and everyone seems to be a star there. With the graces of karaoke, and maybe the parents who are overly proud and nudging them into the celebrity lifestyle. But these Filipinos that you talk to, that are in the book, that are featured in the book, what do you think it is about them that gives them that edge, that puts them ahead of the crowd?
I think it's their drive and ambition that sets them apart, because they have that ambition to really succeed. Plus, of course, to begin with, they have the talent, right? And then most important of all, they also have the charisma that makes them win fans, you know, and win people, because it's also important that. And also, especially these days, yung hindi ka generic eh. You have to have something unique to set you apart from all the rest. Lalo na ngayon, by the way, also a point of pride is that the newer generations of Filipinos all over the world are proud of their heritage. Hindi katulad noon when I interview, sometimes some of these stars would hide and say Malay, they're part Malay, part Tahitian,
Hawaiian.
part Hawaiian, anything but Filipino, parang tinatago nila yan. But now I'm finding that the younger generation, they're very proud of their Filipino heritage. They don't hide that fact that they're of the Filipino heritage.
And I think also the support of the family. Basically, they're good children, and the support of the family, you know, they kept them down to earth and, you know, grounded.
Plus, I think the newer generations can be influenced siguro ng MTV, that they get to see all these races in one medium. I think that makes them proud of their heritage.
Now moving to TIFF, the reason that you guys come here every year, where we get to be graced with your presence. At any given moment, you're on a plane or you're rubbing elbows with celebrities at junkets and all that kind of stuff. But every year, at the start of the fall season, you're back in Toronto. How is the vibe of the Toronto Film Festival different than the other film festivals that you've been to around the world?
Parang very laid back, very casual, very friendly, kasi ang mga taga-Toronto very friendly. So I like that kasi parang no fuss, walang complications, basta everything runs smoothly. And also the fact that Toronto has become a major festival In fact, for us, especially journalists, Toronto has become the major source of interviews because we get a lot of our big stories dito sa Toronto. Because it seems to be it has become maybe one of the most important festivals in addition to Venice and Cannes.
And a lot of the indie films are now going to Toronto too. Even from the Manila, like here we have Dante Brillante Mendoza's film, or
Jeffrey Juturian, the Vilma Santos film Extra.
Yes.
And also Raya Martin, who did a Mexican-Filipino co-production. And they're here because of the growing importance of Toronto.
This year we have movies like Gravity, The Railwayman, Fifth Estate. Which films have you guys talking this year?
Well, Gravity lives up to the hype. It's really good. We just saw it. And then, of course, a film by your fellow Canadian, Jason Reitman, Labor Day, is very, very good.
The other tradition that you have when you come here is the annual In-Style Party, which I'm very fortunate. I get to tag along with cousin Mike every year. I'm very lucky. And it's definitely known as being one of the best parties, the biggest party at TIFF. Why do you think that is?
Well, siguro nadala namin yung a little bit of the Golden Globe glamour sa Toronto. And a lot of stars accept our invitation to come to the In-Style Party. So I think it's also in a certain way way for the stars to relax and mingle with friends and fellow stars.
Before they leave for LA.
Yeah, before they return to the grind. Yes. Yeah.
It seems like the last pit stop.
Yeah.
Jet off to the other locations. Obviously, you two have been working together while being married. I was doing research before the interview, typed in Ruben and Janet Nepales, and some of the things that come up. Hollywood's golden Filipino duo. Would you say, what would you describe the working relationship that you have? Is it challenge ever?
We're competitors actually. We write for the competing papers. So, ang joke niya sa akin, overachiever na ako. Kasi let's say we came from the same event. As I drive with her, going home, sabi niya, have you already written your story? Habang pauwi, sabi niya, habang pauwi, sulat ko na daw yung article ko because we have that competition. It's a very friendly competition and we do have like scoops that we hide from each other. It's a very nice way to basta busy ka na lang and then lalabas na lang and then casually, oh, you did this or you came up with this story. And we both outscoop each other.
Yeah, so he writes for Philippine Daily Choir, I write for Manila Bulletin. His paper's number 1, my paper's number 2, but always number 2 tries harder, right?
So
and this year, I won second prize and Ruben got third.
For a change.
for the LA Press Club Awards.
Yeah.
You have to remember she has Clooney on.
Yes, yeah. We're very proud of each other. So yung scoop na yan, maganda kasi it's a challenge to keep a scoop from her knowing or from him from him knowing what I'm on to. So maganda yung lalabas na lang. Pero casually na lang biglang, oh yeah, by the way, I came up with this story.
Keeps you on your toes.
Ever since I was a little girl and I knew you two, you were always very sweet with each other. You call each other tweet. I remember before Twitter, there was
we should have copyrighted that one.
Yeah,
before Twitter came up with
money.
tweet. Yeah, we should have copyrighted that one really.
We are the original tweets.
You are the original tweeters.
Sandy, milyonaryo na sana kami ngayon.
One day. But you're never nauseating. You always keep the love there, but it's never to the point where, it's uncomfortable for people around. What's the secret to keeping the romance alive?
Yeah, well, we're friends first and foremost. I think that's the most important. And there's that passion that has not subsided, obviously. For the past, 27, 28 years?
27.
Yeah, so...
we have 2 anniversaries, that's why we have to think.
Which one?
August 2nd and April 25. The civil and the church wedding. So
my final question for you guys, as an aspiring journalist, of course, I look up to the both of you. You've accomplished so much and made many breakthroughs for Filipinos, for women, and as a couple too. What would you say would be the best advice to journalists to be the best journalists they can be?
Writing has to be your passion. Talagang, yun ang hilig mo talaga no matter what. and you will do everything to succeed, and talagang we will keep at it to improve your writing. I think you really have to enjoy writing to really pursue it to succeed. And as I said, it has to be your passion. Talagang parang overriding passion mo to write, and to go after those stories. Kasi a lot of the people, they see only the socialan and all that. Kasi they don't see the hard work that goes behind the articles.
And also, dream big, focus, don't let challenges or disappointments stop you from your dream, because your dream is very easy to reach. It all depends on you. It's deep in your heart, and anything can be achieved by that.
And they're off again. Only a couple days in Toronto, and they're hopping on a plane back to LA, then San Francisco and Las Vegas. You know what they say, ain't no rest for the wicked. And this power couple can attest to that. Until next year, Tita and Tito.